Our left-hand side, there it is, tallest totem pole in the world. Can you see? It was carved by Mungo Martin in the year 1954, and it was placed in that spot. It's actually the windiest spot in Victoria, and every couple of years they have to take it down, which is a huge procedure. They have to put rebar on the top because it starts to bend, and they have to, of course, replace all those beautiful colors because it's in a very windy spot. It's only a couple of 100 meters away from the ocean. But we're very, very proud of that. Our totem pole, 27 feet 6 inches tall. And what's most fun is when a bald eagle sometimes sits on the top, and they look out to the ocean for the glimpses of fish. They can fish, they can see miles and miles. And it's always fun when that happens because we fool the tourists and go, oh, look at the lovely carving of the eagle on the top. And then he flaps his wings and everyone gets all shot. Now we hear people are trying to challenge us for the record of tallest totem pole in the world by simply gluing trees together with glue and brackets. But it took Mungo Martin and his friends over 6 months of going through the forests in northern Vancouver Island to find that tree. So the tallest totem pole in the world must be carved from one single living tree. So take that, Alaska. We have got the big trees down here. Books were all set in and around that area. So now they've got all these tourists coming from all over the world. And of course we're very jealous of that. But we kind of played a trick on them recently, and we had the 26 of the world's most beautiful tall ships in the harbor, these beautiful old ships. And of course, to please us, they went out there and had a mock cannonball fight. So one of them was the Lady Washington that was in all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and the other ship was the one from the Mutiny of the Bounty dump here. Imagine when it was saturated with salt water and how heavy it would have been, and the power of the waves that just picked it up and plunked it down on the beach here. Sometimes the stormy weather around January, February will wash all of this debris onto the beach. And see this bluish bush here? This is Cyanthus, also known as California lilac, and it doesn't smell. It's no scent at all. But we'll see a lot of that. It's just blooming right now. Now, as we make this turn, have a look on our left-hand side, and we'll see two little houses. They are known as the Fairfield doll houses, and the first one is this yellow one on our left with the blue trims. 1614, and again here coming up on our left hand side another one, 1626. Check out the little garage. Like, what fits in there? A go-kart? Now those houses were built in great number in Victoria just after World War II, and they're all about 500 square feet. At that time, of course, there was difficulty acquiring heating oil because we were a Navy town and the Navy basically took everything. So they built these teeny tiny little houses. And just because they're tiny doesn't mean they're cheap. A doll house will be about $500,000. We have some of the most expensive real estate in the world here in the western part of Canada, between Victoria and the larger city, Vancouver. Vancouver prices are just astronomical, but here in Victoria, a house will start at about $560,000. So there really aren't any houses under $560,000. There's a lot of condominiums being built called the Sea Captain's Cottage. See, it's just teeny tiny. Note the hot tub in the back. So after dinner, you walk up the stairs to the hot tub with your glass of white wine in your hand. That's a real West Coast thing to do. And look at the neighbor. This one's called the Italian Castle, also on your left. So completely two different styles here. And actually, I quite like the Italian Castle. It's new, but the fad or the trend nowadays, of course I said fad, is very geometric designs. Very unlike, for example, on our right, this classic English Tudor here, circa about 1930. As we climb King George Terrace, we'll actually see some of these interesting houses, and of course when they build nowadays they actually require a building lot, which is in itself a very difficult thing to do. The fashion actually is to build these geometric square houses, so lots and lots of different styles to see. And beautiful rhododendrons still in bloom here, very much in bloom at the Butchart Gardens. Things will be blooming slightly differently out there. It's something to do with the very different weather patterns they have out there. Don't ask me why. This is one of those famous gardens in the world, and there's a reason for that. Things grow bigger out there, and it's warmer out there for some reason, even though we are actually 14 miles north. So at the crest of the hill here, you see beautiful little Harling Point down below. little community that contains a National Historic Site of Canada. The Chinese Cemetery is down there, complete with very beautiful Chinese tombstones. And at the crest of the hill here, Peter's slowing so we can get nice views of the little trial island. And here's a float plane coming in, probably from Seattle, judging by the direction. There's a very big home for sale down here. You're off to our right, but it's huge though. It's actually got 54 rooms in it. That's, I know, because my friend Larry was the chief electrician on that project. Larry worked for years on that house. So here's the two so-called, I'm going to hide my mouth here in case they can read lips, the ugly houses. First one is ugly. This is what they call the Walmart of King George Terrace. And this one is new, but you know, it looks a little better with that open deck. So you can see this square design. Not only is it not very nice for us to look at, but it actually blocks the view. Really beautiful house, hard to see. Have a look on your right hand side where this man is standing here on our right. And you can see a beautiful use of a tiny lot. Look at the little gates there, the native art gates. Beautiful Art Deco curves to that house. That's like wonderful architecture. And that's actually a big house, because some of these lots here, just clinging to the side of the cliff, are actually enough for a 3-story house. Well, we don't really care what the houses look like. Ultimately, it's what they do with their garden that counts. Gardening is hobby number 1 in this city, followed by golf, followed by cycling, and the last hobby, which may be a bit too early for the weekend, but the last hobby is actually restoring old cars. So you'll see all sorts of bizarre looking old vehicles. I call everything a Bugatti, or a, or a Bugatti, or, oh, that looks like an old Chevy. So I'm sure there'll be lots of gentlemen who can identify the old vehicles. Now as we drive by this bay here, this is called Gonzales Bay. You'll notice over there, off to our right, you'll see a little island. This is called Trial Island. And in the early days of Fort Victoria, this is where the ships would actually come out to test the repairs that were done in the shipyards in Victoria. I hit with a golf ball on a couple of occasions. You know, just because you're a millionaire and you have thousands and thousands of dollars to play in this private golf course doesn't necessarily make you a good golfer. I swear, the last time we got hit, one of the golfers said to the other, "Well, Harry, you couldn't hit the side of a bus." And then, of course, we trundled along, and he goes, "Oh, yeah." Next thing we know, watch this, we got hit by a golf ball. Now, this was actually all farmland back in the 1890s, and a group of 5 gentlemen got together, and they used to rent golf playing times from the farmer, Mr. Pemberton. But he had a tendency to let out all his cows into the pasture, and that totally ruined the golf game. So eventually they got their money together and they bought the farmer out and created this very, very beautiful private golf club. Golfing very popular in Victoria because of our mild climate. You can actually golf 365 days a year. Now this is a growing golf club, and lots of people want to build houses around it. There's some lovely homes, all of them new, just built here on the corner of the golf club. Ooh, it just alarms me when I see them so close to us, teeing off like that. I like this house here a lot. Look at its beautiful tall rhododendron and its bright scarlet one down below. Must have superb. We'll be seeing quite a few beautiful homes. One of these days, eagles will turn up. 2 very large and very common birds around Vancouver Island are the bald eagle.